Anja.
Hi, Tansy. How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, really well
Good.
today. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah,
I mixed
I'm
up
ready.
my normal black with red today.
Yes,
Hmm.
it's beautiful.
Thanks.
Why red?
Oh, it might have been a bit of a subliminal messaging effect because of what we're talking about today. So to incite a little bit of maybe danger to what we're talking about.
Danger. Love it.
So
How
what are we
clever.
gonna So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about CBD. Oh my God, what is it? Centralized government-controlled coins, blockchain coins.
Not always. They could use
Not
blockchain, but
only
they don't
aren't
always.
they? Oh, I thought they were focused on, that was sort of the government's ways of using the wonderful technology of blockchain.
Of hijacking.
But it's not necessarily the case.
No, I saw that some banks are kind of contemplating using a different means. Um,
Mhm.
so for example, well, we'll get there with the EU, but they're kind of looking at
Yeah.
standard ways, like with systems that we've already got in place, whereas other countries are looking at utilizing blockchain for them. So maybe I should
Mm.
explain what they are. So it's CBDC, which stands for Central Bank Digital Currencies. And what these are, in a very neutral way, I'm going to try and present this neutrally, is a currency that is issued by the bank overseen by the government. So it's a kind of collaboration between the government and the central bank. And it basically is a digital coin that can be programmable. So unlike what we have at the moment in terms of being able to send money from PayPal or your bank, where your money kind of transfers across the internet, it's not actually a digital currency. It's not actually that the coin itself is a digital coin. We're still operating in this kind of a more physical or traditional landscape where our currency, it still acts the same. It's just now we can actually send it online. But a digital currency is like, it's a fabricated coin, fully kind of digitalized coin. And what that means is that in the code of the coin, you can program in certain things. So that could be that it expires after a certain amount of time, or like who could maybe hold it. So there has like kind of programmable qualities to that currency. It's not just a money. What different countries choose to program in is up to them, and they're not necessarily going to tell the public what has been programmed in. But essentially, it's code, so they can do what they would like with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
To
And so they can code. I mean, it totally makes me think of like Ethereum, and where you can then start coding things onto a coin.
With Ethereum, they allowed for you to put kind of smart contracts, create smart contracts. So it allowed for you to kind of to branch off of just being a currency. So that's how you can create kind of NFT, like digital art and things like that. Rather than going too much into the technology, because I think that is not something that we're going to be incredibly familiar with, as like how it works. But it's more about what are people like, what are the kind of let's start with maybe what are the positives about having a central bank digital currency. Actually, before we start there, I just want to say that this isn't a hypothetical or a conspiracy or anything like that. China has already created its digital one, which is what it's called, and it has been tested, I think, in 5 million different transactions. So it's already in progress. The EU has gathered a list of different countries and banks and technology specialists to basically create a digital euro. And Norway is creating a digital Norwegian token they're using the Ethereum blockchain. But some of the others, like for example, the digital euro, they're utilizing I think other forms of technology, or they're looking into other forms of technology. And the UK is also doing research into creating a CBDC, as is the US. So it's happening. So what are the positives to a CBDC?
What are the positives?
How will they sell it
to
us?
That it's a currency that you can more easily and quickly send to other entities when you're sending something to your family, your friends, to an organization. One thing I'm not clear on is it also then is part of the government's interest in this kind of coin that they make it deflationary? Can they make it now, if they start like let's say the US, is that dollar, is it not going to be the dollar anymore? Are they going to completely decouple it from what we know as the dollar, maybe even name it something else?
I mean, they could have it so that, they can basically do anything to the code. So for example, with Ethereum, you were mentioning it before, is that they coded into Ethereum that it would burn with each transaction. So it's deflationary. So basically they had no limit to how much Ethereum they could create. That is the same with central bank digital currencies, because it doesn't need to be tied to gold. It doesn't need to be tied to, who decides how much a country can create. So what they could do is they could create lots of it, and then they could have it so it's kind of it's unending, like Ethereum was. And then what Ethereum did is that with every transaction they burn a bit to create, because they wanted some of that deflationary to build the value of the currency. Whereas the central bank digital currency might not want to do that. It's not about kind of the speculation of the coin or pushing up the price. They want it to be stable. And that's the thing. So there's quite a lot of bankers who are raising these kind of concerns, because although the governments are saying that they are creating these currencies, they aren't going to take over fully, that you're still going to have traditional cash and all of those things. There's all of these concepts, and they haven't really been fully worked out. And the thing is that all of the power stays with the central bank over your money. So, and the government. And what the EU want to do is, what they are doing, what they're creating, is these digital wallets that not only hold your money, but hold all of your identification. Now, who has a back door into that wallet and the coin? They do. The government does. The bank does. They can literally manipulate the coins in your wallet, and they can manipulate your wallet. So they could block you. They could prevent you from spending, which on the World Economic Forum, it's listed that they have created a credit card that stops you, that has a limitation on how much you can spend on carbon inefficient products. So it has like a carbon efficiency measurement or rater. And when you've reached your carbon efficiency limit or carbon usage limit, your credit card no longer works. Right. So this is what is kind of wanted, and that's for the purposes of, creating a more green economy by basically controlling. And that's just the first step, like creating a credit card in that way. But what will be likely is that you will have a wallet, and they won't tell you this. They won't say that we're going to control it in order to decide what you spend it on. In fact, though, Rishi Sunak did say that, the ex-chancellor of the Exchequer for the UK was very affiliated with the World Economic Forum, and he was talking about how, they could drop these coins into your account in case if you really needed it, at a last minute's notice. They could take the taxes out of your bank account automatically. And he was also saying, in a kind of positive way, there could be sort of controls about how you spend that money. And you could have time limits. So they give you $150 or £150, and that only lasts for a month. So you have to spend it within the month or it disappears. Like, this is all possible with a CBDC. So the central bank and government can almost do whatever they want to the code of the currency. And we're not told anything about how much they will create, but essentially there is no limit. It's just a fabricated coin that they can just keep adding to, basically.
This is really scary stuff. Now I'm really understanding why you wore your red dress. I'm seeing red all over the place listening to that. And it's so disheartening. A couple of reasons. One is that, in terms of carbon footprint, it's not the individual people who are spending money that are creating the issue. It's these big organizations who are allowed to create all this carbon exhaust. Why are they, again, attacking? Maybe attacking is not the right word, but where the regular people are the ones carrying the burden for what they're doing, and they're not controlling, and they're not thinking ahead and being creative. And so we have to then be the ones that carry the burden. And I think that's so not right. And secondly, these governments are just staying stuck in their old ways of control, manipulation, power, when if they really cared about us, about planet Earth, they could really make great change. It's like so disappointing. It makes my heart really heavy talking about this. And it makes me angry.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's I think both of us, having been in the environmental arena for a long time, the governments have had, and the banks have had, so much opportunity to make changes that will actually have a genuine impact on the environment, to choose the environment over development, to banks to invest in projects that are green versus projects that are harmful. They have never done that. And at the moment, the UN is working with banks, but it's like, it's taken years. We've known about the environmental problems since the 60s, 70s, like with Silent Spring. And it's like, it's been there all the time, and the governments have known about it, yet they constantly push it to the next kind of government because they don't want to deal with it. And so do we think that they actually care about the environment? No. What do they care about? Control. So, but they, like you say, are putting the burden of the responsibility onto us, onto the people, when all of these businesses, like you say, have profited from destroying the environment, and yet they do nothing for that. They don't do anything to control that or curb that, and they've had plenty of opportunity. And so where are they focusing their targeting on is not, okay, let's invest lots of money in the environmental space, but instead let's cap the spending, let's control the spending of people. That will be green, that will help to save the planet, by basically kind of bringing everybody into a box and totally taking away their sovereignty, their ability to choose what they do with the money that they have earned for themselves. And the government knows full well, and banks, that money is security. Without money, you can't eat, you can't sleep safely. You can't have a really like a kind of a rich life in terms of, in lots of different ways, or a secure life often, if you don't have money. That's what the world is built on. So for them to control that basically is controlling your whole experience of life, your ability to have security or not have security. It's like, it's a sentence. And we've seen when people say, well, they won't do anything nefarious, like they won't do anything that really is harmful. It's like, whatever you think about COVID and what happened there, you saw governments separating individuals into one camp or another and controlling one and preventing spending on certain things, like with the trucker protest. Whatever you think about the trucker protest, doesn't matter. People who sent Bitcoin to the truckers, it was totally legal. But what the government did was they retrospectively illegalized it and shut people out of their, I don't even actually know if they did it in law, but they shut those people out of their bank accounts. And when the person did it, it was totally legitimate. So a government can retrospectively go back in time and decide that something you did was not aligned to what they think you should be doing now. So if you think that the government is trustworthy, if you think the government is there to protect the environment, if you think the government is there to, inspire your freedom, then unfortunately, like, it's absolutely the opposite. And it's really terrifying. And I think, coming from the crypto ethic, where we talk about, positive and ethical and love, and I think it's really important to be really strong with this, is to say, look, we're all about love. We're all about community. And I think this is why it's so important that we recognize control versus freedom. Like, we recognize where we're going and recognize that we still have a choice over our voice. We still have a choice over what we do. We still have sovereignty to say, no, we do not have to consent, like blindly or ignorantly or, passively. We have a choice to say no. And this is that time. And I really do believe that that's what we need to be doing. And what would be the alternatives, Anja? Like, what can we do as individuals to set ourselves up as we move into potentially this world? But what are our kind of background options at the moment? What currency speaks to freedom?
Bitcoin. I mean, as you were talking about this, I kept thinking, I would say in the last 10 years, my eyes have been opened. I had so much more faith in the government, and along with that came the dollar, being a US citizen. But I've slowly wised up, and my heart has been broken. It's like, oh, I had such faith, I don't know if it was naivete or if it was, you're just trained to have faith in the government. But anyways, I digress. So I was thinking, wow, you know what I do all the time? I put all the money I get from my job, for my environmental job, and I funnel it into crypto. I keep a certain amount in dollars, because there's still a lot of places where you need the dollar to have an exchange. If you buy groceries at, let's say, Jewel. But but there's places like, I think even Walmart, I don't know if it's around the world, but they accept Bitcoin as a transaction method. So I would say 70% of the money that I make in dollars for my job into Bitcoin and save it there. And, and as crypto develops and matures and gets more and more and more adopted, we can then use Bitcoin, potentially Ethereum, as means of transaction to buy a car, to buy your house. People are doing that now already in certain places where you can buy your house with Bitcoin or your car with Ethereum. I know in Dubai, they're very, very progressive in terms of all the things you can buy with crypto. So yeah, and I'm happy that I've also gotten my father into it. So he buys Bitcoin through me. I guide him through that. So yeah, so my answer is Bitcoin. Is that the right answer?
Yeah.
Teacher?
Yeah. It was a slightly leading question. People that are invested into Bitcoin are like, it's for freedom. The whole premise is decentralized, it's distributed, it's open. Right? It's not about control. It is the antithesis of control. So everybody who has bought into that, that is their belief. That is what they stand behind. So there isn't, so they will continue to support Bitcoin staying free, because it is our only hope really against something like a CBDC, is to be able to utilize an open, free currency that is not controlled, and is not, it doesn't determine when we spend it, how we spend it. Ethereum too, yes, and USDC is built on Ethereum, and there's some definite positives about USDC, because you can hold your profits from Bitcoin. If you want to have something stable, you can use USDC. And I would also say, unless they ever ban it, is having some gold. And I know that people will have differences of opinion about that, but I certainly hold gold. I used to sell antique jewelry, so I still have that. But if everything, if cash, they say, which they have started to say, you can't use cash because of COVID. If they basically kind of limit cash, which is you're able to pass it to someone else without anyone seeing it. And that's the thing with Bitcoin, is that all of your transactions are visible. They're all public, everything that you do. Your wallet may not be completely associated with you, but all of the transactions that are ever made on Bitcoin have been listed. So there are privacy coins such as Monero, but they may be targeted. So what we have left with is basically cash and gold, because people will accept it as payment, but no one is tracking it. So, and I'm not trying to advise everyone to get under the system. It's just more to protect yourself on multiple levels. Because ultimately you have a voice now, but that voice may not have any weight in the future. So it's really important, while you have the ability, to plan your response, and to not consent until you maybe can't anymore, but then to have assets that you can utilize to be able to buy things if you ever get shut out of that system. And I think that's sensible.
Yeah, I do have some cash under my pillow, or under my mattress. No, I don't, but I do have some hidden in the house for emergencies.
Do you have any gold?
But I have no gold. I've got gold plated stuff, but that doesn't count. So interesting.
Yeah, I have some gold coins, like gold sovereigns. Yeah, and gold jewelry. I sold it, so I have lots of gold jewelry. But it's I would definitely, when the gold price finds the kind of bottom, I would definitely look at buying some gold. I think it's worth having some.
Yeah,
because you may have to turn in all your cash, and then when you turn it all in, it will be registered, and suddenly that's all seen. You've turned everything in, no one will accept it. So if you wanted to just give it to your neighbor so that they could buy food because they may have been locked out of the system, you wouldn't be able to do that, because they wouldn't be able to spend that cash. Gold, they may be able to buy food with that gold in the future. So it's not to kind of set a really dystopian vision of the world, but I really fail to see how this can not, even if our governments are really considerate at the moment, nothing goes wrong. What about future governments? What about the ability of someone to take over the government? We can't foresee the future in that way, but we can foresee what technology is being utilized and what it does to what controls it can have over our ability to live our lives, really.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of cash, I mean, when I now go to coffee shops, or when I intend to use cash at a store or coffee shop, the first thing I do, it just naturally now comes out of me: do you accept cash? Like 10 years ago, nobody would have thought that. And now here we are having to ask whether, and some don't, and it also reminds me of in the US when they made holding your own gold illegal and made you turn it in. I mean, it actually happened. And they might actually then do that, especially if you have this centralized digital currency, then they can say, no more dollars very easily. And you have to turn them in, or they just make it unacceptable by coffee shops and restaurants and companies. You can't accept it. You can't put it on your books, you know. So then you're left with all this paper that means nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing all this scary stuff in your red dress.
I know.
But it's something we need to think about and need to know and process.
Yeah.
And plan for.
And that's the thing, is I would really recommend everyone to do their own research, to not take our opinions as fact or anything, you know, just literally listen to what we said, and then go and do your own research and then make up your own mind. Like, that's the beauty of sovereignty. You have sovereignty over your own thoughts and minds. So, you know, you have choice about what you decide for yourself. And so if you know, and I would love if people like think this is a really wonderful idea, I'd love to hear from you, you know. And I think I do understand how, like, if you need to pay medical bills or you need to get your, I don't know, insurance benefits, whatever like benefits you get, and how to pay tax, I get it. They're going to make it super easy, and they'll use that easiness as a way to kind of, as a way to move us in, because there will be things that will be so much simpler. You can show one wallet when you go through a country. You can show the same wallet when you go to your bank. You can show the same wallet when you get out your money. You can, you know, everything will be contained in this wallet. So you don't have to hold paper. You don't have to hold, you know, your passport. You don't have to have any of that. You have a digital wallet with everything in it. And they will tell you that, you know, there's probably that there will be some sort of privacy, that there'll be no back door in there, but it's just not true.
You know what, it makes me think then, you know, like the salary I get in dollars from a nonprofit in the US, eventually that's not going to be in the fiat dollar. It's going to be in this, so that I'm going to be forced to use it because that's what I'm given to use. And then if they can track it, what if I can then not put that money into crypto anymore? That I just thought of that, and that's like a scary thought, because they won't allow that coin, because then if they can monitor it, they can see where it's going. And if it's going into a wallet that they don't agree with, they'll block it. You won't be able to access it.
Yeah, it's really true. And actually what that means is that if you hold Bitcoin now, you may not be able to buy it in the future. Like, you may not have, like, that may prevent more widespread adoption in certain countries that hold CBDCs, because those people cannot access Bitcoin with the money that they get. And so the adoption curve for Bitcoin in those countries would just plummet because they cannot be involved. Yeah. And like, fortunately, because Bitcoin is global, and that's what's interesting about all these different CBDCs, is they all are linked to different countries. And China is ahead, and China is wanting the whole world to adopt the digital yuan, rather than like we've had the US dollar standard. Like, China wants the digital yuan to be the standard. But anyway, there's all these competing ideas again about, like, you know, different countries competing with each other and their currencies, whereas Bitcoin is global. So if your country doesn't allow you to do that, you can always go to another country that does. And I think there will always be countries around the world. They may end up being like Cuba. They may be ostracized by the rest of the global community, but there are places that you could work and you can be free.
Portugal
at
the moment, and Dubai. and El Salvador. I mean, El Salvador might be the place for me because they're just south of us.
Yeah. And that will be, you know, that's what's really interesting. It will be, I wonder about the migration, you know, of people around the world.
Right.
It's going to look very different. I think Bitcoiners think about that global idea, and it's the same when we come back to that environmental piece, is we need to be thinking globally. We need to be thinking holistically. Creating a CBDC and preventing you, like a single person, from doing certain actions is not a global strategy. Like, there are going to be climate refugees. There are going to be areas of countries that are completely destroyed. There's no thought about that. There's no thought about having something more global, or having something more integrated, or having something that is truly it's truly a global discussion about what we can do. This is intentions of small amounts of people at the top to control. Like, there is really no other way of like looking at it. So sorry. It's not my fault, but I do feel bad having to pass on this quite challenging news. Yeah.
But it's good to talk about this stuff and think about it, because then how can you make yourself the most to be the most authentic you can be? And what does that look like? And how does crypto fit into your world to help you access that authenticity, whether it's moving to a new place, or, going more on the land, finding a place where, I don't know, you can grow your own food. But that's not everybody can do that. That option is not available to everybody. As a larger society, being part of this huge, larger global society, I think really the best way is crypto to maintain that authenticity. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. But to use Bitcoin at this moment as a vote, by buying Bitcoin, you're voting for something different.
Yeah.
And you can stand up, and if there's enough people that stand up and say no, like if they try and prevent you from buying Bitcoin, say with the CBDC that they're creating, and there's enough people in a country that holds it, like maybe we have a chance, or who we vote for. There's a lot we can do to maintain, our consent, and our ability to consent, and our own power. And we are much more powerful than we're given credit for. And I think we can use that power in lots of ways. Yay.
Yay.
Any last comments?
No, not at the moment. I'm going to process all of this wonderful banter we've had. Well, not banter, conversation.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing all your insights.
Well, I'm sorry to listeners if I've brought a bit of a downer of the day. Anyway, let's all be on the same page. So yay, it was so lovely speaking to you, and I shall speak to you very soon.
Okay, cool. Ciao.